want to share with you a time when I realized something. I was living in an apartment in San Antonio. It was just me, Aaron, and Jackson. And at the time, there were a lot of moments where Jax was trying to get my attention as a dad. He'd say, "Dad, Dad," or "Daddy, look at this." I think he was like 3 or 4 at the time. And over and over and over again, what was happening was that he was trying multiple times to get my attention. It would take forever sometimes, or I'd be distracted looking at my phone. And part of the reason, part of the contribution toward this incident was because I didn't have very good hearing aids. It was at that time when my wife kind of gave me a nudge and said, "You might want to look into getting some new hearing aids." And that's when it hit me. I wasn't hearing my son the first time. I wasn't paying attention to him. I was focusing on so many other things, and the lack of hearing made it even worse. And I was missing out on the opportunity right in front of me to connect with my son. Now, I paid a hefty price for these things, and they're really effective. But it reminds me of what Paul talks about in Ephesians chapter 5, when he says that, hey, the days are numbered, the days are evil, there's sin and brokenness in this world. It's easy to get distracted, so make the most of every opportunity. Redeem the time is another translation, another way of putting it. And Paul says that if we are children of the light, if we've been made children of God to follow Jesus, then that means that more and more our lives are going to look like Jesus. Our moments, our days, we're going to see them as greater opportunities. We're going to see that moment when our kids trying to get our attention as an opportunity to make disciples. Yes, that's right. We're going to see every moment, more and more of those moments, as opportunities to make disciples. You know, in the church, we have a lot of things that we do. In our lives, we fill up our schedule with so many things. And sometimes I think we overfill our schedules to the point that we actually miss out on the opportunities that are right in front of us. Or because our schedules are full, someone said, "Hey, I want you to go and make disciples." Or, "Hey, can you serve in this way? Can you go out and tell people about Jesus?" Sometimes we think, well, when am I going to have time for that? When am I going to have time to get together for another lunch or another coffee or another small group? And that's the problem with our thinking, is that sometimes we think that following Jesus means that we have to add more things on in our lives. But rather, Paul says, when we follow Jesus as people who make disciples that make more disciples, when we do that, we actually begin to see the opportunities that are already right in front of us as places and spaces where we can make disciples. Let me explain. In Acts chapter 8, Paul encounters a couple. The guy's name is Aquila. That's a strange name, but that's his name. And the woman's name is Priscilla. Priscilla and Aquila. They could have been a band back in the day. I don't know. But actually, they were tent makers. And so Paul knew they were tent makers, and Paul himself was a tent maker. And so instead of Paul saying, "Hey, Aquila, Priscilla, why don't we start a new small group? Why don't we start a new Bible study? Why don't we start a new trunk or treat down Damascus Road?" Instead of doing that, Paul said, "Hey, I'm a tent maker. You're a tent maker. We're already spending time making tents. Let's turn our tent making time into a discipleship time." And as a result, Priscilla and Aquila, who were Jews, came to believe in Jesus as their true Messiah and Lord. They came to be people who started and planted other churches. Paul greets them in multiple letters in 1 Corinthians and Romans, and we see the fruits of the labors that Paul dedicated himself to. We see what happens when we don't think of disciple making as another thing to add on, but rather seeing our whole lives through the lens of making disciples and seeing every moment, every gathering, every event as a disciple making opportunity. So rather than giving ourselves to more programs or making more programs, let's think of it as having more mission fields. We already have enough programs as it is, and our schedules are pretty darn full. At least mine is. So why not see our schedules and look at them and see them as opportunities? Let me give you another example. I like to go to Chick-fil-A with my family sometimes, and we get those little kids prizes or gifts in their kids' meals. And for a while, Chick-fil-A would put out these little boxes of cards called Table Topics. And in Table Topics, you have a little small deck of cards, and it has a bunch of different questions that are more intentional, that allow you, while you're eating together as a family, to ask questions that actually have some purpose behind them, that actually mean something, that help you get to know each other. And so one time, we got home from Chick-fil-A, we had these Table Topics, and we took them out one dinner, one night. And so instead of talking just about our day, like doing the normal things that we always did, our so-called program, we brought out these Table Topics and we had a more intentional, a more purposeful conversation as a family. It suddenly went from regular dinner time to like a dinner time getting to know each other, learning about our hopes and dreams, reflecting ourselves on what our answers would be to certain things, thinking a little more deeply, connecting better as a family. It reminds me a lot of what Jesus did when he started communion, started the Lord's Supper, as we call it. We celebrate it all the time, and it's almost like routine in the church life. But actually, at the beginning, it was like another program. It was a program something they did every year called the Passover. And Jesus took this meal, this Passover, and he turned it into something more. That's what Jesus does. He takes what we have and he turns it into something more, and he invites us to do the same. He took this Passover meal with his disciples and he brought out the bread and the wine, and he said, I want to make something more of this. It's not just what it's always been. This is now an opportunity to receive forgiveness as my disciples. And that's what Jesus calls us to do. To think about what groups, what places, what settings, what events are we already a part of, that we can kind of weave this idea of disciple making into those moments and see our groups, our places and spaces as mission fields. To not look at our calendars and say, well, I got a lot of programs here, and now Jesus wants me to add another one to my list. But look at our schedules and say, wow, look at all the opportunities I have. Look at all the mission fields I have, from small group to birthday parties to preschool programs to meet the teachers to golfing, going golfing with my buddies, or hunting, or book club, or quilting group, or games, video games, whatever it may be. Anything can turn into a disciple-making opportunity. Nothing is off limits to Jesus. See, the world doesn't need more programs. That's not the solution. The world needs more disciple makers. The world needs all the programs and events to have in them someone who's there ready to make disciples, because disciple makers see an opportunity to make something more than what it initially is. Jesus, I'm reminded, at the beginning of his journey with his disciples, he didn't say to them, hey, come follow me, and I will make you really good event planners. I could have used that skill, but that's not what he said. He said, come and follow me and I will make you fishers of people. Come and follow me and I'll make you disciples who make more disciples. That's what Jesus designed us to be as the church. And when we get caught up in adding more things on rather than bringing Jesus into the things we already have, then we're not as effective. We're not being the church as Jesus designed us to be. That's not what discipleship is about. Discipleship is about following Jesus wherever we're at, seeing our moments, our days, our events, our conversations as mission fields, rather than looking at it through a programmatic way. So Jesus didn't design us and didn't call us to be great event planners or great program builders. No, he designed us and called us to be disciple makers, so that when we are in a program, when we are at an event, we can make disciples. We can see that as a mission field, and that it is not off limits in any area of our life to follow Jesus.